Hey friends, how's everyone doing today? Hope you're all having an amazing and super awesome weekend so far. Tamie M coming to you from tamiem.biz. And what I want to talk to you about today is being a person of high empathy. Specifically, are you an empath? Are you an empath? We're going to dive into 10 reasons why most people can't handle you, if in fact you're an empath. Now you may know that you are, you may not even know that you are. By the time we get to this live though, you should have a pretty good idea. But before we jump into all of the material, I'll just take a quick moment to introduce myself in case we haven't met before. My name is Tamie M. I'm a life coach for women, an empowerment life coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns so they can experience the love that they deserve. And you know, I do a lot of work with my clients around narcissistic abuse recovery, codependency recovery, and what I find more and more as time goes on, of course, like attracts like, right? The vast majority of the clients that I end up working with are highly empathic. They're empaths. More often than not, full-blown empaths like myself. And they come to me for help and don't even realize this about themselves. And listen, it is really important information for us to have. If we are highly empathic, if we are full-blown empaths, we need to know this about ourselves because we're wired a little bit differently. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first I want to say, hey Ray Tarley, how are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hopping on. So are you an empath? And what does that even mean? And then we're going to dive into 10 reasons why most people can't handle you if you are. So here's the thing. If what I'm talking about sounds like total Chinese to you, like makes absolutely no sense, I sound like a complete and utter whack job, chances are good you're not an empath, and it's going to continue to sound like Chinese, so you might as well just tune out. You'll know because the information that I'm going to share with you will resonate, it will click, it will jive, it will vibe with you, right? So again, if it sounds like complete and utter Chinese to you, I'd say chances are good you're not empathic and don't waste your time. But for those of you who know that you're highly sensitive, like you've gone through life being told that you're just too sensitive, you're too emotional, you need to develop a thicker skin, like there's something wrong with you, I have good news. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. On this planet today, we are here as full-blown empaths or highly empathic people or even highly sensitive people on purpose for a reason. And God knows that our world needs more empathy. God knows that our world needs more people who carry high levels of empathy. So if you're someone who has always felt sort of battered by this world, and the people around you, grew up in a family of origin where you were told that you were too sensitive repeatedly, etc., know that it's actually a gift. But if you don't know this about yourself, it can feel like a gift and a curse all at the same time, right? Hey Tamie, how are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on, girl. So yeah, if you don't know this about yourself, it can feel like a gift and a curse. But you know, for me, it was a big piece of the puzzle in my own personal development and recovery journey and, you know, getting well and becoming, you know, really healthy and what I feel is like more empowered than I've ever been in my life. It wasn't the only piece to the puzzle, but it was a big piece to the puzzle, understanding this about myself, right? And as I said, a lot of the folks that I work with, a lot of the women, I work with women specifically, so a lot of the women that I work with, we do a lot of work in narcissistic abuse recovery because I happen to have a big background in that and I kind of specialize in it. And we talk about the fact that, you know, what a lot of people don't get, like when we're talking about narcissism, for example, is that it's a spectrum. It's on a continuum. It's a sliding scale. So it's not black or white. It's not like being pregnant. You are or you aren't, right? There's varying degrees, right? So, you know, when we talk about the high end of malignant narcissism way over here, sociopath, psychopath, like completely devoid of conscience, empathy, we're talking here. The opposite end of the spectrum are full-blown empaths. and then highly empathic people, and then highly sensitive people, right? It's the opposite end of the spectrum. So in my opinion and experience personally and professionally, we can be an empath, not know it, also have untreated codependency, which is a disease process born out of family of origin trauma at a very young age, quite frankly. Big subject. We won't go into that today. But if we combine, I'm a full-blown empath, or I'm a highly empathic person, or I'm a highly sensitive person with untreated codependency, what that does, because of the continuum and spectrum, is it means that we are magnets to low empathy people. So being a highly empathic person with untreated codependency sets us up to draw low empathy people, narcissistic people, destructive narcissists into our lives. It's like two pieces of a puzzle. We are wide open energetically, very, very sensitive. We're all about giving, loving unconditionally. And again, if we don't know this about ourselves and don't know how to take care of ourselves and add to it the untreated codependency, it's a freaking mess, because the people we draw into our lives tend to be energy vampires, whether that's romantically, you know, in friends, family relations, our family of origin, often that's what we're dealing with, and then even out there in business, right? So this is really, really, really important information for us to have. In fact, it's so important, I have a good chunk of it in my new program that I just recently launched, the Freedom Class. 8 weeks to psychological, emotional freedom for women who are struggling dealing with the toxic people in their life, with the low empathy people in their life. This information is so important to have, what it means, how to take care of ourselves with regards to this aspect, this huge, amazing aspect of who we are, when we're empowered, when we're healed and whole and healthy. It's a big piece to one particular module, actually, of this new program that I've launched. I believe it's that important because it was that important for me. So let's dive in. What I pulled out today for the content for today's live is actually a good chunk of an article that I myself didn't write, but I loved it so much that I shared it a few months back, and I thought I would share it again because I thought it was really, really well done and very succinct. And I'll add my 2 cents in, as I always do, as we go along. But before we dive in, I'm going to say, hey, Marcy, how are you? I got all the girls from Florida on today. Welcome, Lynn. Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Bonnie Jade, how are ya? And Vina, nice to see you. Okay, did I get everyone? Legina Love, how's it going, girl? Nice to see you. So thanks for hopping on, guys. Do me a favor. If you're catching me live, drop me a 1 in the comment box. If you're catching the replay, drop me a 2. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new. Let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello. So let's dive in. Are you an empath? Again, if this sounds like Chinese to you, go watch someone else's live, because it's just going to get worse as we go, okay? If you are, it's going to resonate and it's going to help you understand yourself. And self-awareness is really, really important. So 10 reasons why most people can't handle you if you're an empath is what we're going to talk about today. But this particular article came from ideapod.com, ideapod.com. So what it says is the empath is the person who understands your pain, your joy, and everything in between. The person who understands your pain, your joy, and everything in between. So I often have clients ask me, like, you know, I know I'm really sensitive, but how do I know I'm an empath? Well, I have tests that I can run you through to determine where you land on the spectrum, right? But the difference between an empath and a highly sensitive person, there's a lot of overlap. They absorb the world, you know, relate to the world in very similar, basically the same ways, but the difference being, empaths literally absorb the energy around them. They literally absorb the thoughts, feelings, physical symptoms, the emotions, the energy around them. They take that into their being, in particular if they don't know how to take care of themselves, through all kinds of different things that we can do to shield ourselves, ground ourselves, protect ourselves, clean our energetic force field, all of that. Highly sensitive people don't necessarily do that. They don't necessarily do that. They certainly don't do it to the same degree. You know, sit beside someone who has a migraine and pick up their migraine as an example, right? So that's the difference. But they do relate to the world in a lot of the same ways, right? Like it's almost like splitting hairs, but not quite. So the person who understands your pain, your joy, and everything in between, like really, really, like I feel your pain. When I'm talking to my clients, I'm a full-blown empath. I've known this about myself for a long time now. When I'm talking to my clients, I feel it. I feel their pain. There's a resonance there, right? Now, this article goes on to say, sorry, I'm trying to stay on track here. So this article goes on to say, their big hearts give too much even though they receive too little. Empaths tend to have such big hearts and they give too much even though they receive too little. We become very easily drained when we're not empowered and don't know how to take care of ourselves and respect ourselves and our boundaries. They'll love you unconditionally and protect your emotions at all costs. Kind of sounds like the perfect person, right? Not so fast. The truth is, most people simply can't handle an empath's complexity, depth, and powerful capacity for love. So I'm going to repeat that because this is important, guys. For those of you that I'm actually speaking to, this is important. Most people, this is the truth, most people simply can't handle an empath's complexity, depth, and powerful capacity for love. We have a huge capacity for love that your average human being can't necessarily relate to. Like, it's estimated between 10 and 20% of the population, and it's an estimate, but certain experts in the field of psychiatry and what have you who have done studies on this over decades, it's an estimate 10 to 20% fall into this range of the spectrum. And I know my whole life, I mean, I grew up in a very narcissistic family, quite frankly. So not all of them, but they all landed on the spectrum somewhere, from raging codependence all the way up to full-blown, you know, diagnosed by psychiatrists, borderline, pathological, etc. So my whole life experience has been a training ground, to be honest with you, for this subject and narcissistic abuse. But the point being, no one ever really got me, ever really got me, which is a painful way to go through life, especially when you're little, right? Never could really get my complexity and the depth of my emotion and my feeling, in particular when we're surrounded by sleepwalking people who vibrate over here and have little to no empathy, right? Really important that we get that. Today, as an adult, knowing what I know, you know, well into my healing and recovery journey, feeling more empowered than ever before in my life, I know this about me. And when I go out into the world, I know this. So I don't expect people to get me. I don't expect people to, you know, resonate at the same level in terms of my capacity for deep and great love. I do my best to manage myself and, you know, not overwhelm people. But I know that most people, your average citizen out there, you know, I've got my peeps, like, for example, my girl Marcy and a few others of you who are on here. We're wired the same way. We get each other. We recognize each other instantly. And that's my close inner circle, my sacred circle. But I don't go out into the world expecting people to get me, because I know that the vast majority of them aren't going to. And that's okay. That's okay. And that's really a place where we want to be, right? Where we can truly be ourselves in all of our gifts without expecting, in particular, the low empathy people that we sometimes have no choice but to expose ourselves to get it or get us, because it ain't going to happen. So the sooner we accept that and get over that one, the better, the better. So If you didn't know, an empath is someone who is highly sensitive to the energy, moods, emotions of people and situations to the point where they can take on those emotions as their own, as I said earlier, right? So even though their superpowers come in a range of strengths, most people, now hear me, especially insecure ones, especially insecure people. Low empathy people often, they come off confident, but they aren't really under the surface. So you need to hear this. Most people, especially insecure ones, simply cannot handle them. Simply cannot handle them. When we are truly grounded in our power, shining our light as we were meant to, we came to this planet to shine our light, to bring high levels of empathy into this world that is starving for it and other things. Look around, right? So most people, especially insecure ones, just can't handle our vibration. If you're a full-blown empath, once you really step into your power and become self-aware and understand this aspect of yourself, you won't be shocked when you walk into a room and everybody loves you, or you walk into another room and some people, sometimes it's just, you can see the reactions, instantly can't stand you. Have absolutely no basis, there's been no provocation, instantly can't stand you. And it really has nothing to do with us. Difficult to not take that personally if we haven't done our own healing work, but has nothing to do with us and everything to do with the energy that we carry. Our vibration. Legina's given me some love here. I know she resonates because I know she's a soul sister on the path, right? I know this message resonates with her. So we have to get to a place where that shit can go on and it hits the floor. It doesn't matter. Yes, we're human beings. We're highly sensitive human beings. We have feelings, but we can get to a place where we can be bulletproof the majority of the time. And when we're not, when it lands, when it attaches to us, when it hurts, we need to know that's not about them, that's about us. That's our internal work that needs to be done, because when we are clean, when we are healed, that shit has nowhere to land. It can't stick. It hits the floor. And that is our work so that we can be fully empowered empaths doing what we came here to do. I hope that makes sense. So I'm off on a tangent here. I had too much green tea this morning. I am just rocking, but I'm having an amazing day. So even though their superpowers come with a range of strengths, most people, especially insecure ones, simply can't handle them. So we need to know this about ourselves, guys. Here's why. Now, let's dive into the 10 reasons why most people can't handle us, okay? Good to know this stuff about ourselves, because then we can go out into the world with a little more elegance and a little more grace, expressing ourselves in moderation, depending on who we are, and test with new people. Maybe we don't talk about our fascination with Atlantis with people who are deeply asleep and have no freaking clue, right? Like, just an example. Maybe we don't go down certain tracks with folks about certain subjects that we are really, on fire about, when it's like speaking a whole other language. Maybe we learn how to not dim our light or, dim our light to make other people more comfortable, to appease insecure people. But we learn how to express ourselves in more moderation, depending on where we are, so that we're not necessarily hammering the wrong people over the head, right? Very important for us to just be true to ourselves and our authentic selves and our core. But again, there's a balancing act here when we're self-aware and our eyes are wide open. We need to speak to our audience depending on who's in front of us, right? So this is important information. I'm gonna grab some water and then we'll dive into the 10 reasons why most people can't handle us. I think this is fascinating stuff. Gabrielle, welcome. Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Okay, who else do we have here? Did I miss anyone, guys? Linda Black, nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Anna, how are you? welcome, welcome. Guys, do me a favor. If you're catching the broadcast live, drop me a 1. If you're catching the replay, drop a 2 in the comments. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new. Let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello. Would love to connect. Here we go. Reason number 1. Empaths ask too many questions. Full-blown empaths, we're curious about everything. In particular, people and their lives and what makes them tick and what happened and the details. And, you know, like we're really into the laboratory of life, right? Like we're really into it. I know, like, you know, I think my guy is, you know, highly empathic. But we're wired so differently, and it's amazing because we have such a harmonious relationship. It's a beautiful thing. But I know that like my need for the details, always asking all the questions, like it's, you know, he just doesn't care. So he doesn't have the answers. Like I'll be like, well, when did that happen? And how long has it been? And what, and he's like, I don't know, like he doesn't care, right? So we ask too many questions. People in general don't like to complicate the hard questions in life, and it can lead to a relationship breakdown before it even gets started. That's the truth. And when we're self-aware and we understand this, you know, this is where we express ourselves in moderation. When I'm on the phone with, like, again, my girl Marcy as an example, we're in the, you know, we can go there together, right? Because we both love it. That's the juice of life for us. But when I'm dealing with, you know, your average human being who doesn't like to complicate the hard questions of life, couldn't care less, is still asleep, right? Like, and no, you know, this isn't a value issue. We all are valuable, but some of us are in different places. So I remember, oh yeah, not everybody wants to ask or answer a dozen questions and get into the nitty-gritty. Number 2, empaths are honest. Empaths are honest. Now, this is a big one if you're an empath, in particular if you're an untreated codependency with regards to your own personal work and what you're attracting into your life. I gotta tell you, this is huge because truth is everything for us. And if for any reason you've been manipulated into living a lie throughout your life, like for me, for example, I was handed a lie, a big, bad, ugly, scary, shameful, disgusting fucking lie to carry at the age of 7. And like they say in 12-step, we're as sick as our secrets, right? I carried that lie for 33 years. And it had me crippled for a very long time. So I believe that this is true for everyone. We're as sick as our secrets. But if you're an empath and you are not living in your truth and you are carrying secrets or lies, my friend, you gotta figure out a way to deal with that. You gotta figure out a way to deal with that. You know, when I finally released those monsters, the motivation wasn't for me. The motivation was for other people. The freedom for me on the other side of it, I didn't anticipate, and my whole life changed. My whole life changed. I've been living in a completely different zone of emotional and psychological and spiritual freedom ever since. So that turning point for me was in 2009, and it was a big one. Empaths are honest, and if we're not living in our truth and we're carrying secrets and lies, we will get sick. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, whatever you want to call it, spiritually, and ultimately physically. We will get sick. It's a big one. They can't hold anything back. Now, sometimes, like I said, we're manipulated into situations when we're really young. There's exceptions, right? But generally speaking, an empath can't hold anything back, even when they know it will cost them a relationship. Even when they know it will cost them a relationship. So many examples I could use to speak to that. I'll try and stay a little succinct here. It's not my forte. I tend to go on. But I want to bring you as much value as I can. So, yeah, you know, even if we know it will cost the relationship, there are situations sometimes where I have to take a step back, because in order for me to be in the relationship, I have to be a liar, even if it's just by silence. And I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that. If I can't stand in my truth in relationship with you, if I have to pretend to be something I am not in order to be in relationship with you, and quite frankly, guys, I've gotten to warrior status with this where I don't give a shit who it is. Like, there is no one in my family of origin that I have contact with today. And the reason being, who I have to be in those relationships is not who I am. I did that for too many decades, and I paid a huge price. I am not willing to do that anymore. Not willing to do that anymore. So honesty, big, great, big, huge. Empaths know what they want. Empaths know what they want. Now again, we're talking empowered empaths. If you still don't know this about yourself and you have untreated codependency and unresolved issues and wounds, you haven't graduated into empowered empath yet. So you might still be confused about what you really want. And it's my experience as a coach that a lot of people never actually give themselves permission to know or take the time to know. They gave up on the idea that they could actually have what they want years ago, right? So this is the difference between, being empowered, an empowered empath, or not. Typically an empath will have a really good idea. And if they have stepped into their power at any level, they know what they want. They know what they want. Are you still wondering what you want to be when you grow up? Is what the article says. Empaths aren't. Getting where they want to go is an important priority for an empath. There comes a point where we wake up. I think all humanity is moving in this direction. I just think some of us are leading the way. I think some of us, it's happening faster than others. Again, this is not a value issue. We all have value. But it's obvious some people on this planet are waking up faster than others. And once you start to wake up, you know you're on a mission. Even if that isn't completely crystal clear in terms of what it is, you know you came here for a reason. You know there is a mission, and you know that it's important. And the more you step into your power and that clarity and that high vibration, and you stop doing the toxic bullshit dances with the low empathy people that you've attracted into your life, and you start loving yourself and taking care of yourself, you get on that path and you get on that mission, and you get about the business of living that out. Clarity, knowing what you want. Number 4, empaths want empathic partners, which is a big challenge, because if you're anything like me and a lot of my clients, for years and years and years, by virtue of how I had been programmed in my family of origin and the wounding that, I experienced, and the stuff that I carried unresolved and unhealed for so long while I went through life, doing this, as so many of us have done or do, I attracted one destructive narcissist after another. In fact, I think there were even a couple of sociopaths in there, a few near misses. Like I was in and out fast enough that it wasn't 100% confirmed, but in retrospect, the more I educated myself on this, it was like, right? So I attracted one after another until I did my own work, right? So here's what the article says about this. Empaths want empathic partners. And good luck with that. They want meaningful relationships that have many levels of complexity. And it's hard for the average person to buy into that and adopt it as their mantra. If a person is looking for a one-night stand, an empath is not the person to go to. In particular, an empowered empath, someone who is waking up or has woken up, and is standing in their power. They're not your target market, your target audience if you're looking for a one-night stand. We want many levels of complexity. And in fact, not just romantically. Like I need that in my, relationships with the girls. Like I need that really in all of my relationships, right? I can't do superficial, like we're talking I love to talk about shoes for, a couple of minutes, but then let's get real, right? Let's dive into the real stuff, right? So, kind of off on a tangent on that one again, but I think that the more we do our work, the more we open ourselves up to attract partners and friends who resonate at that level. I know for me, the low empathy people really started to fall out of my life in every way. The more I graduated in terms of doing my own internal healing, I wasn't attracted to them, they weren't attracted to me, right? And the guy I'm with today is a full-blown man, there's no question, could not be more masculine, but very empathic. And there are many levels of complexity in a good way to our relationship. And I think that that's an important want and need for highly empathic or full-blown empaths. I think it's an important want and need. It's like oxygen for us. There we go. That's what I've been trying to say. It's like oxygen. Number 5, intimacy is a given with empaths. Intimacy is a given. Empaths are not afraid to let you see, an empath is not afraid to let you see her in a vulnerable state. And, you know, some people think that's weak. And I'm sorry, but I think that takes a whole lot of strength. I think it takes a whole lot of strength and courage to be willing. Is that Caitlin hopping on? Nice to see you, girl. Thanks for hopping on. So I think it takes a whole lot of strength to be vulnerable in, you know, any way in front of someone. It's not a weakness, and empaths can do this quite naturally, right? I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I have someone coming through the door sort of right above my head, but we shall keep going. Yeah, we'll just keep going. So, intimacy is a given. Empaths are not afraid to let you see them in a vulnerable state. This is what I wanted to say. You know, there's this absolutely beautiful woman that I'm connected with on, you know, the Facebooks, right? And she made a comment on her timeline, something about being vulnerable, feeling vulnerable. And I was really impressed by that, you know, because to just put that out there, like whatever the post was about her being vulnerable, right out there on social media, I was like, high five, sister, because the truth is it takes a lot of strength. You know, those of us that are walking around pretending like we are not vulnerable, actually, that's not strength, that's weakness in my opinion. And those of us who have the courage to let our guard down and be seen for real. Now, I mean, we want to do this, you know, wisely with safe people. If we're wounded, we don't want to set ourselves up to be, you know, unnecessarily hurt, whatever. But, you know, if we have what it takes inside of us in terms of internal strength to drop our guard and be real and admit that we're feeling a little fragile today or a little vulnerable, that takes balls. That takes balls. And that's part of the whole intimacy is a given with empaths. Number 6, empaths see through the crap. This might be my favorite one because it's kind of like the story of my life. Empaths see through the crap. So here's what the article says on that. People who suffer from self-esteem issues and confidence issues don't hold their own very well with empathic women. I know this is true in my own experience. Like, I've had some experiences, I think we all have, right? Like, haven't we all, right? People who suffer from self-esteem issues and confidence issues don't hold their own well with empathic women because they are so in touch with their own feelings and state of being in the world. They can pick out the people who are imposters or struggling to find their own way still. We feel you. We are on to you. Another example, you know, another lady that I'd really like to be able to have a friendship with, but every time I go there and try, it's like there's this wall. I can feel it. I'm dealing with a false persona. I can't make contact with her heart, with her true self, probably because she hasn't yet. And that's okay. That's where she's at. No judgment, no criticism, no condemnation. It just makes it really, really difficult for me to really develop, you know, a real friendship or relationship there. We feel you. We feel all of it, even from great distances, guys, even from great distances. We're on to you. We are on to the imposters. We don't do phony. We feel it. We feel all of it. Empowered empaths like to build themselves up with people who are like-minded, not take on a project. So empowered empaths specifically, because if we're still on the floor struggling in our untreated codependency, then we're still trying to heal the past with what we're doing today. I know, because I did it for years. Again, no criticism. It's just what we do till we don't do it anymore, till we learn and we roll up our sleeves and do the work, right? But if that's where we're at, we're going to take on projects. You know, if I could just love him enough, he'd finally show up and be who I know he could be, which is a complete and total utter illusion based on your experience. But we go through these, you know, fantasies, right? Because we're so powerful that we could love someone into being someone that is entirely removed from the reality of who they are, right? So if we're still dealing with our untreated codependency issues, we're going to be doing that bullshit. Empaths or not. I know, because I did it, and I landed on the planet a full-blown empath. We come here this way, guys. But as we grow up, as we mature, as we wake up, as we heal, as we evolve, as we ascend, we hold a higher standard. And it's not hard. It happens by virtue of the law of attraction, metaphysics, the nature of reality, how it works. We up-level ourselves internally, make our own personal shifts, and that which is no longer a match to us, our new vibe, falls away, and higher, better starts to show up. It's a fabulous thing. It's a fabulous thing. Makes the work worth doing. Number 7, empaths like consistency. Man, they hate people who bail and don't follow through on their promises. So, you know, I'm on the phone with a coaching client this morning who is definitely a full-blown empath. And we're talking about it, you know, because we're both living these great, you know, lives of building, you know, online businesses for ourselves and what have you. But we both come from highly professional backgrounds. And I don't know, maybe it's an age thing, but no, no, it's not an age thing, that I know. But, you know, I have certain expectations. Like, for example, when someone books a coaching call with me, they actually show up. And if an emergency takes place where for some unforeseen reason and they can't show up, they send a message, right? They don't just stand me up. And it's not that this happens all the time, but it does happen, and it shocks the hell out of me. And sometimes it's not 22-year-olds, it's 50 and 55-year-olds who are behaving this way. And it shocks the hell out of me. And I think part of it is coming from a professional background, and part of it is I'm a full-blown empath. I like consistency, and I just can't even imagine conducting myself that way, especially by the time I'm 50 years old, right? Like, how hard is it to honor my commitments or deal with them appropriately? So, you know, we can have high standards based on common decency, courtesy, and respect, right? Because we have empathy. We respect other people's time. We recognize that if we made our way into their calendar, they've blocked off a period of time for us, and we need to honor that, right? So, you know, I think I could go on about that, but I think I'll just leave that where it is. Empaths like consistency. They hate's a strong word. I don't think those of us that are awake are walking around with a whole bunch of hate in our hearts, but I can tell you it shocks the shit out of me. I'm like, wowza, like, who ties your shoelaces for you in the morning? If this, like, okay, I'm being a little facetious there, but honestly, you know, showing up and respecting other people and their time, not hard. Like, this is just big girl behavior, no? Number 8, empaths are intense. There's no way around it. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a little intense. Like I said, I probably had a little too much green tea this morning. I have a caffeine sensitivity, so I know better, but I had the second cup because I really love this stuff, and here I am, I'm vibrating. But I can come out of a meditation, a 45-minute, an hour plus long meditation, and I'm still intense. We're intense people. Again, I'll use my sister friend Marcy, who's on with us today, as an example. We get on the phone and it's like, brr, 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 and we can keep up with each other, right? And we don't even have to really finish the sentences because we get it. We're there, right? We can meet each other. We're intense people. Empaths are intense people. We vibrate at a different calibration than the average Joe. Again, not a value issue, doesn't make us better. We're just wired differently. So what does the article say about that? There's no way around it. Empaths have a lot of intensity, and they aren't making any apologies about it. God knows I spent long enough apologizing for who I am, surrounded by a bunch of, you know, full-blown destructive narcissists, and then some. I am not apologizing for who I am. Ever, again, as long as I am, Tamie M on this planet moving forward in my life, if I make a mistake, if I accidentally hurt you, if I drop the ball and I owe you an amends or an apology, I'm the first there. But apologize for me, for me and who I am and how I'm wired and how God made me in all my glory, no matter how different I may be from you. Never. Not happening. Not doing it. Like it or not, this is who I am. And, when we get to that kind of place of self-love and self-esteem and self-confidence, our light, as Marianne Williamson says, gives others the permission to do the same, to rise up and to shine. We don't do anyone any favors by hiding our light under a lampshade, so that insecure people feel more comfortable around us. So we don't apologize for it. You either get on board with what they've got going on, or you move on. It's really that plain and simple for an empath. And it's true. Once you step into your full power, it really is that plain and simple. And honestly, guys, it's a great way to live. It's a great way to live. Look, we're highly empathic people. We're not out there living life that way, stepping on people's toes and hurting people unnecessarily or whatever. We're not out there, we have a lot of empathy. We care more than most. We love more than most. We don't need to be apologizing for who we are or why we're here or what we're doing. We just need to be true to ourselves, following our heart and serving those that we came here, we are meant to serve, period. Number 9, empaths go all in. Empaths go all in. There are no half measures with an empath. And number 10, last but not least, number 10, empaths are independent. You should know that an empathic woman won't wait around for a person to get their business together so they can be together. Empaths don't need a person to solidify their place in the world, and while that might mean they're single for much longer than they had hoped, they are okay with it and their choices and stand by them so they can have the love they've always wanted. And I'll add to that, deserve. And this is so true, because this is exactly what I did. I've always been fiercely independent. Like, I traveled around the world by myself to a large degree. I mean, some of it was with friends, but to a large degree by myself in my early 20s. 20 years old, pack on my back. I was off to Europe and, Southeast Asia, India, Nepal, all of that in my early 20s. The majority of that done alone. I've always been very independent, and if you are a full-blown empath or highly empathic, you're probably pretty darn independent as well. And when I decided that enough was enough with one narcissist after another showing up in my life, and what the hell's wrong with me that I keep attracting these people, and I decided to figure that out, and I rolled up my sleeves and I did the work, I actually spent the better part of 8 years single. Now, I don't think, if I had known then what I know now, I don't think it would have taken that long. But that's what I did. Now, I would date maybe once a year, here and there. I'd go out and date, and I would dip my toe in the pond just long enough to realize, okay, I'm getting better, but I'm not well enough yet. By virtue of what was showing up, right? Like, they're a mirror to us. They're a mirror to us. We need to understand that, right? So I just kept doing the work, stood on my own ground, learned how to love me, learned how, I was always independent and okay in my own company, but really learned how to get to high levels with that. And got to a place where, all I've ever wanted was to meet the man and the love of my life and have what I have today, a healthy relationship. But I got to a place where I was determined I was going to be happy and full of love no matter what. It's the best thing I ever did. 3.5 years ago, I attracted the love of my life into my life, because who is beyond the wish list that I had in terms of, everything I've ever wanted. Like, beyond, right? We have such an amazing relationship. And I say that not to brag or to boast, but to inspire you that if you're not there yet and you want that as badly as I wanted it, then be willing to do the work. Be willing to do the work so that you can become a vibrational match to it. That's what you want to do. So my independence really served me. And that's what I did. And I tell you, it was worth it. It was so freaking worth it. Again, I'm not suggesting that you're gonna have to spend 8 years working on yourself, because if I had known then what I know now, it wouldn't have taken 8 years. I know that. But that was my path, that was my journey. And he was worth the wait. He was worth the wait. I was 45 years old when I finally met the love of my life. You know, and I remember being 36, being like, man, I've been dating for 20 years. Where the hell is he? You know? And I still had some time. I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of stuff to heal. I had a lot of things to learn about myself and what I had lived through and what have you. Guys, I hope you got some value out of this. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, and or share. Once again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment life coach for women, and I help women break free from painful relationship patterns so they can experience the love that they deserve. If you'd like some information on my new program, the Freedom Class, it's an 8-week intensive with, right now I'm offering it up with one-on-one coaching with me on top of the whole full-blown program. It's phenomenal, life-changing stuff. Drop me a comment. Send me a private message, whatever. I'd be happy to get you some details on that. You can always go to Tamie M, T-A-M-I-E-M coaching.com for info as well, and book an appointment with me, and we can get on the phone and have a chit chat about what's going on and whether or not you're a good fit for the program. So again, I hope you got some value out of this. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah! Thanks, friends, for hopping on, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll catch up with you probably on Monday, if not before. So enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.